Nawn da, good afternoon. Cynghorydd Austin Roberts
I'm
ydw i.
Councillor Austin Roberts. I'm Chair of the Planning Committee. May I welcome you all to the meeting, which is a hybrid multi-location meeting. In addition to the committee members, we also have officers joining us to assist with our discussions along with registered speakers. The meeting shall be live streamed and recorded and shall be made available to view upon the conclusion of the meeting. If the live streaming should fail, the meeting shall continue and the recording shall be made available on the council website after the meeting has ended. May I remind members that translation facilities are available and that those attending remotely need to choose their language. For those in the chamber who wish to speak, please raise your hands, and for those of you attending remotely, use the raise hand button. For speakers, both in the chamber and remotely, shall be invited to speak alternately. For those attending remotely, please bear in mind that those in the chamber cannot use the chat facility. Committee members attending remotely are required to keep their cameras on throughout the discussions and voting in order to uphold the integrity of the decision-making process. If you must leave the meeting temporarily, please place the meeting in the chat so that the Democratic Services officers is aware, and then let us know when you have returned. I expect all present and participating in this meeting to conduct themselves appropriately and to respect each other, and this pertains to members, officers, and anyone in the public gallery. We shall proceed with the meeting. Item number 1, apologies for absence.
2 apologies from councillors Chris Cater and Andrew Wood.
Eitem 2.
Item 2, disclosure of interests under the Code of Local Government Conduct. Councillor Joe Nicol.
Declare an interest in application number 0/52216, which is the Welsh Mountain Zoo, as I sit on their ethics committee. Thank you.
Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you very much.
Cynghorydd
Councillor
Lloyd.
Ifor Lloyd.
Code reference 04/51963, construction of a permeable hard standing and track used to facilitate agricultural use. My daughter is coached by the applicant.
Okay. A fi di'n gadael yr...
And you shall be leaving the chamber for this. Thank you.
Unrhyw un arall?
Anyone else?
Reit, mae gynna i ddatganiad
I have a disclosure to make. The application number 0/52045. The change of use of Llys Gwydir, Parti Gwyn Llanrwst. I grew up living next door to the wife of the applicant, and we attended school together, and I also rent a field from her, and so it would be appropriate for me not to take part in discussion on that, and I shall be leaving the chamber. Okay, nobody else with any disclosure of interest? There we are, then we shall proceed to item number 4, urgent matters. Thank you. And the next item, the minutes, to approve and sign the minutes of the previous meeting as an accurate record. Pages 7 and 10 on the agenda. I shan't go through them in detail, I'll just go through them by number. Councillor Nuttall.
Yeah, the last page has an incorrect record from the 8th of January 2025. Code reference 0/52098. I left the meeting. I didn't take part, and it says that I stayed in the meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Lady Sutton, Chair?
Joe, what application or?
0/52098. It would have been the Welsh Mountain Zoo one.
Iawn. Oni bai
All
am
right,
hynny.
and apart from that, is everyone happy that they are accurate? Is anyone prepared to propose that they are a correct record? Councillor Gwennol. Anyone seconding that? Councillor Rivod. Can you show hands, please, if you're in agreement?
Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you very much. That is unanimous.
Neb yn erbyn?
No one against? No.
No, neb yn ymatal chwaith.
And no abstentions either. Okay.
Reit, so dyna ni.
There we are then. And on we go to
Y ceisiadau.
the applications.
Yn gynta, ma' gynnon
First
ni
of all, we have 0/511210.
change of use of land for the siting of 15 timber holiday lodges and associated works, part retrospective, Tyn Terfyn, caravan site, Henrws Road, Talabont, a mae gynnon ni y
And
ddau
we've got
siaradwr
three
cofrestru,
people who have registered to speak on this application. May I first call upon Mr. Alan Collins, who shall be speaking against the application.
You have 3 minutes when you're ready, and then when there's 30 seconds to go, the clerk will let you know.
We welcome the recommendation to refuse permission for this development. The context of the site is highly sensitive and, contrary to the applicant's claims, is clearly visible from elevated locations to the west, including the national park. It is visible encroachment into the countryside, which does not represent high quality tourism, but a cramped array of low standard units. The landscape of Dyffryn Conwy is the tourist attraction, and the proposal obtrusive. It is contrary to council and national policy relating to the protection of landscape assets. The applicant has willfully ignored planning procedure and largely completed a development wholly contrary to planning policies. The council has committed considerable resources to produce these policies in order to enhance the quality of the natural and built environment. The council's own Office of Strategic Planning Policy has confirmed that the applicant's, quote, unlawful development of the site has rendered any previous applications for caravans or studios meaningless. Given the scale of the units, the proposal is therefore for 15 dwelling houses, mostly already built, effectively on agricultural land. The council's LDP makes no provision for major developments of dwellings in Castell of any type. Castell is a small community with a permanent population of about 50. The proposed dwelling houses could accommodate as many as 90 people. The inevitable increase in footfall, vehicular traffic, noise levels, and demands on drainage systems known to be inadequate are unreasonable intrusions. Castell already provides more than its fair share of the valley's tourist accommodation, with a hotel, bunk barn, and properties available for holiday let. Council officers have confirmed that dwelling houses of whatever class are subject to the requirements of building regulations, and it is patently clear from what has been submitted and what has already been built that building control requirements cannot be met. We agree with the Office of Strategic Planning Policy that, with regard to tourism, quote, the proposal does not meet the relevant criteria of the policy. We look to the council officers and committee members to defend these policies and not reward openly disdainful abuse of the system. There can be no policy or need justification for inappropriate and deliberate unlawful development that harms the very landscape which draws tourists to this area. We urge you to refuse the retrospective application in such a clear-cut case of willful non-compliance with the planning rules. And if not, what message do you send to applicants willing to flaunt the rules and the rigors of the planning process? Thank you.
Diolch yn fawr, thank you. Mae gynnon ni hefyd 2 siaradwr arall.
We've also got two further speakers, and next will be Ms. Charlotte Edwards, the agent, and she has been registered to speak in favour of the application. So if you can come forward, please, Ms Edwards. I think you are quite familiar with the procedure. You have got 5 minutes when you're ready. Thank you. Good afternoon.
Opportunity to address you as a committee in relation to this application. You'll see from the committee report the planning officers have presented a detailed assessment of the application and its compliance with national and local planning policy. As a proposal for holiday accommodation units, the main planning policy of relevance is policy TOU2 of the Conwy LDP. The assessment in the officer's report notes that part 2 of policy TOU2 will only support proposals where it forms part of an ancillary or complementary part of an existing or proposed new tourism development scheme and meets criteria 1A to J. The assessment in the officer's report notes that the proposal conforms with criteria A to J of part 1 of the policy. Therefore, the only element that officers are concerned about is that the proposals do not form part of a complementary or ancillary part of an existing or proposed new tourism scheme. The addendum provides additional information in terms of an existing tourism development scheme by way of an existing holiday let at Pennant Cottage and Tynterfyn. Both of these are owned and operated by the applicant. Appeals in the past relating to other new tourism accommodation have been allowed in situations where the accommodation would form part of a proposed B&B or farm diversification scheme. There's an existing holiday let business which is owned and operated by the applicant on land which directly adjoins the application site. The proposed holiday lodge accommodation would complement the existing self-catering holiday accommodation by providing a different form of high-quality holiday accommodation on land to the rear of the existing holiday units. The applicant has also been in discussions with local hoteliers who have shown interest in taking on the holiday accommodation units at Tynterfyn and Pennant Cottage, as well as the proposed lodge units, subject to planning. The intention is therefore for the holiday lodge units to form part, enhance and expand the holiday accommodation which can be offered by an existing serviced holiday accommodation business. The units proposed are as short-term holiday accommodation, and a planning condition could restrict this use to ensure that they are not used as primary or second homes. I hope therefore that you as a committee can support this application this afternoon. Diolch yn fawr.
Diolch yn fawr, Ms Edwards.
Thank you, Ms Edwards.
Nesa gai alw
Next, may I call upon the local councillor to this ward, Caerhun, Councillor Gronwy Edwards.
Dair munud cychwyn o rwan.
Diolch yn fawr. Good afternoon, members. Committee members will be hopefully recall that 6 years long and checkered history of development proposal for this site, including the judicial review, which resulted in one previous approval having to be rescinded. I was relieved to see the officer's recommendation for refusal on this application. It is clear that this current scheme is contrary to our local development plan policies, as well as national planning legislation and guidance. We have to ensure that developers are appropriately controlled and that unlawful development as prescribed in this case is not allowed to succeed by simply making a retrospective application. If we don't, then the status and purpose of Conwy County Council Planning Authority has to be questioned. It's important for us as councillors to pay due regard to all these policies standards to protect special areas like Dyffryn Conwy. Development of 15 substantial lodges, now having to be classed as dwellings, would seriously affect the small hamlet of Castell in so many ways. The occupation levels of between 60 to 90 persons would overwhelm the current 50 or so permanent residents and damage their quality of life and general environment of the community. Protected rural landscape would also have been negatively affected by the density of this development. The council as a whole has established areas where proposed developments of this scale could be absorbed, but the hamlet of Castell and the neighbouring Talabon sit within designated special landscape area, and it is the character of this landscape which is the actual attraction which allows visitors, which draws visitors to come to the area. With this rural area, there is already a significant proportion of holiday lets, hotel accommodation and second homes. We have to recognise that the national policies, as well as our own, are upheld to ensure sustainability of communities. The local residents have been under threat of unwarranted development on this site for over 6 years. I sincerely hope that you, as my colleagues, are thoroughly committed through this committee, can support the officers to recommend to refuse this application. We cannot allow unscrupulous developers to seek to drive a horse and cart through our policies. Development through the back door. Retrospective applications, these are numerous ones that have been on this site already. A scant regard for our policy. I would ask members to refuse this application.
Diolch yn fawr, Mr Edwards.
Thank you, Mr Edwards.
Iawn, na I droi at y swyddog. sy'n
I'll
delio â'r-
turn to the officer dealing with this application, Mr Ian Gibbons.
Thank you, Chair. We have received some additional information. So the addendum is quite long. I'll provide a summary. An addendum to the planning statement has been submitted, which makes the following points. The application complies with policy TO2 as there are 2 self-catering units within the applicant's ownership that directly adjoin the application site. These are known as Tintern and Pennant Cottage. The provision of self-catering holiday accommodation in the form of lodges at Tintern would complement and expand the existing tourist accommodation. The applicant has also been in discussion with local hotel and service hotel accommodation providers from the Conway Valley and Llandudno, and there is interest in leasing the holiday lodges and the self-catering holiday units. This would then extend the range of tourist accommodation provided by the existing hotelier, forming an auxiliary and complementary element to the existing tourist development. Appeal decisions relating to similar applications have previously pointed out that in relation to policy TOU2 and specifically the auxiliary elements, policy TOU2 does not explain the terms auxiliary or complementary in the context of applying this policy. In the absence of local planning meaning, the dictionary meaning of auxiliary would be something which functions in a supplementary or supporting role, and complementary would mean giving or supplying. 2 additional representations received from the Conway Valley Civic Society, which raised the following concerns. The development does not comply with policy TOU2 Part 2, which states that new build and serviced accommodation will not be permitted in the open countryside to protect the area from private holiday homes built across the plan area. The development is not auxiliary or complementary to an existing or proposed new tourism scheme. The holiday lets are not part of the application site and therefore irrelevant. The possible arrangements with other hoteliers are not part of or adjacent to the site. There are no on-site attractions or activity spaces. The development is not appropriate in scale. The density of the development results in a crowded site layout compared to the immediate locality. Jobs will be low paid and part-time with no opportunity for improvement. The proposal is not sustainably accessible and will need car-based transport. The location is not well serviced by public transport. For each unit may require 1 or 2 vehicles, resulting in increased traffic flow. There will be significant impact of noise disturbance. The proposal will not support or extend the range of facilities on offer within the county. The development offers no improvement on the extensive selection of holiday accommodation already available throughout the county. The proposal will appear obtrusive in the landscape. The proposal fails to comply with HOU2, HOU6, NTE4 and Planning Policy Wales. Reference to a previous appeal decision elsewhere in the county is irrelevant, as the site and the scale is different to that proposed in the development. We've also had additional representation received from Richard Buxton solicitors, which raised the following concerns. The residential property is not a tourism property. On one, existing holiday cottage is not an existing tourism development scheme. The proposed lodge development is not ancillary because it does not function in a supporting role to the holiday cottage and forms part of a separate planning unit. The proposed lodge development is not complementary because it does not give or supply anything to standalone holiday cottage. The appeal decision referred to in the statement is very different to the proposed lodge development, which was a self-contained rural farm site described as a small holding where the camping pods were intended to form part of a small holding and utilising this same access track. Pennant Cottage is not part of any self-contained application site and is not part of the proposed development site. It's a holiday cottage which shares a property boundary with the site. There's a separate independent access from the front, so the lodge development cannot be considered auxiliary or complementary to the existing holiday property. The holiday cottage is legally and operationally distinct from the application site. Adopting the policy interpretation proposed by the applicant would lead to an absurd situation whereby anyone with a holiday cottage could apply for extensive tourism development in the garden of their property. And the proposal would set a precedent. In response to the additional information received, we've now had further comments from planning policy. We made the following comments. Owing to the scale and permanence of the proposed development, it is questioned whether this does represent ancillary or complementary part of a tourism development scheme, or if it's tantamount to a new holiday park. There are concerns whether the proposal would meet the criteria of TOU2 Part 1, in particular Parts A and E, and the supporting text. In addition, we've had some comments from the Conservation Officer regarding the impact upon the setting of the adjoining Grade 2 listed building, Tyddin Issa. There is limited intervisibility between the development site and the listed building, especially during the winter months. Storm damage may have reduced the amount of vegetation, and as a result, the listed building can partly be seen. The impact on the setting of the listed building is minimal, especially in the summer months. To further mitigate any perceived impacts, further planting could be considered, but any planting should be carefully chosen and native. Despite the reduced vegetation coverage, overall, the conservation is happy with the scheme and maintains its original opinion. So to summarise, its officers' view that due to the scale and permanence of the proposed development, officers consider that it does not represent an ancillary or complementary part of a tourism development scheme and is tantamount to a new holiday park. As such, the proposal is contrary to policy TOU2. Thank you, Chair.
Diolch yn fawr, Mr Gibbons.
Thank you very
And the
much, Mr Gibbons.
recommendation is to refuse. Okay. Who wants to go first? Cynghorydd Stephen Price.
Thank you, Chair. Having visited the site earlier last year and visiting the site again yesterday, and have read both packs and the amendment that was being forwarded to us, I am more than happy to propose that we go with officers' recommendations and that we refuse planning permission.
Diolch yn fawr. Cynghorydd Jonathan.
Yeah, I'm happy to second Stephen Price's proposal.
Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you very much.
Is there anybody else? Councillor David Carr.
Thank you, Chair. Just like a question about jobs, and I think the statement was made that any jobs would be part-time and low paid. Well, most of the hospitality and jobs in Llandudno could be a sort of low paid and sort of part-time. I just wondered how many jobs you talk about, because the thing is we do need jobs in the rural areas, and any jobs will be, particularly this development, will be for local people. So how many, have you got any idea how many jobs we're talking about? Because obviously there'll be some jobs, but you know, how many? Have you any idea?
There is information in the planning statement. Off the top of my head, I think it's 3 jobs, but if you bear with me, I'll have a look. Information that has been provided by the agent just says the proposal would sustain 1 full-time job and 3 part-time jobs, which would be expected to be filled by local people.
It's council actually, but you know, you can demote me if you want to. You're joking. I just think that the committee should know that you know, obviously doesn't go ahead, and I think that's one of the things people need to think about really, you know, that there are jobs and we do desperately need jobs for local people in the rural areas. That's so I think, you know, it's just a point that, you know, that doesn't need to be made. Okay, thank you.
Right. I don't think there's anybody else who wants to speak. I've got a proposer that we go with recommendation by Cynghorydd Stephen Price, seconded by Cynghorydd Joe Nuttall. Can you show in the usual manner, please? Those against? Any abstentions? Yeah. Okay, and that is carried, and we go with recommendation to refuse the application. Diolch yn fawr. Symud ymlaen at yr un nesa.
Moving on to the next item.
Right, y cais nesa.
For the next application, 0/51550.
Development of high quality leisure complex providing indoor leisure activities in the form of a bowling alley, rooftop bar, extended arcade, relocation of reception and administration offices in order to centralize the operation and customer experience at Golden Gate Holiday Centre, Tywyn Road, Tywyn, Abergele. Mae gennym ni un
We've
siaradwr.
got one speaker. Again, may I call upon Miss Sianed Edwards?
Could you please close the door? Thank you. Diolch yn fawr. Right, pen da chi'n barod.
When you're ready.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to address you once again, this time in relation to an exciting expansion to the recreational and activity offer at Golden Gate Holiday Centre. The applicants, SF Parks, are a family-run company who have been operating Golden Gate since 1999, along with 3 other parks. SF Parks have a long-term commitment to continued investment and enhancements which drive the future of their parks. The Selden family of SF Parks set up the Llandudno Super Bowl on Mostyn Champneys Retail Park back in 1992 and ran it for over a decade. It was a well-used facility and proved very popular for families, both local and visiting. The Selden family have had decades of indoor entertainment business, were keen to re-establish this heritage with their current project, given their breadth of experience and understanding of the wants and needs of their caravan customers. Golden Gate has over 500 holiday caravan bases, as well as an existing complex building comprising of a swimming pool, clubhouse, indoor play area, a small arcade, chip shop, small convenience store and a separate sales building. There's also a separate reception and administration offices. As part of the proposed development, these offices would be relocated to be within the leisure complex, centralising the provision on site and bringing customer experience to the forefront. The new leisure complex would also provide new entertainment facilities, including a 6-lane bowling alley, extended arcade and a rooftop bar. Providing an exciting variety of activities and entertainment facilities to its customers is paramount to SF Parks' strategic priorities. The proposal represents a significant level of investment in the park. Golden Gate currently supports 8 full-time jobs and 20 part-time staff. All of these positions are filled by local people, generally from the Conwy area. The proposed development would provide an additional 7 part-time employment opportunities for local people. The proposed development is considered to be acceptable in terms of design, scale and appearance, representing a high quality design finish, replicating neighbouring buildings along the frontage of Golden Gate, and it also makes use of previously developed land. The additional entertainment facilities would expand the offer available to visitors and guests, providing indoor activities to retain visitors in the Tywyn area, even when the weather has turned. The officer recommendation is one of approval, and I hope that you feel that you can also support this application this afternoon. Diolch yn fawr.
Diolch yn fawr, Ms Edwards. Mae'n diwrnod prysur.
Thank you, Ms Edwards. It's a very busy day for you today.
Iawn, awn ni ymlaen at y swyddog.
All right, we shall move on and I'll pass you on over to the officers. Katie.
Diolch, Cadeirydd. There's no updates, members.
Ie, dyna ni.
There we are then.
Cynghorydd Ifor Lloyd.
Councillor Ifor Lloyd.
Hapus iawn I gweld cwmni.
I'm very happy to see a local company expanding and to see how many people it employs in the area, and I'm very happy to propose that we go with the recommendation. Thank you. Have I got a seconder? Councillor David Jones.
Yeah, I'd like to second that, please. Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you.
Cynghorydd Kay.
Councillor Kay.
I was just going to second, that's fine.
Okay, diolch yn fawr. Does anybody else want to speak? Na? Okay then. Mae gynnau gynigydd.
I've got a proposal that we go with the recommendation that's been seconded to approve the application. The proposal made by Councillor Ifor Lloyd, seconded by Councillor David Jones. So if you can show in the customary manner, if you please.
No. Is there anybody against? Na? Rhywun yn ymatal?
Any abstentions?
Okay, mae hwnna wedi...
Okay, that has been passed.
Right, mi fyddan ni rwan yn gofyn i'r...
We shall now be asking Councillor Ifor Lloyd to leave us the next application. Don't go far, Ifor, because you will need to take over from me quite soon. So 0/51963.
Construction of permeable hard standing and track which will be used to facilitate agricultural use at from Bigad Waun Fawr Isa to Cae Goronwy Llansannan. And mae gennym ni siaradydd, Mr. Kieran.
We've got a speaker, Mr. Kieran Tynan.
Against the application. If you'd like to come forward. Okay. Yeah. Okay, therefore I will go to the officer. Katie?
Thank you, Chair. There's just a couple of updates. One was that we received a representation which wanted to comment upon the proposed laurel planting being poisonous to sheep, but we've actually since received amended plans from the applicant which remove the laurel planting and they replace it with what they describe as livestock friendly mixed hedging, which would be hawthorn and crabapple. Thank you.
Katie. Tristan, mae gennych chi llaw i fyny? Cynghorydd
Tristan, you had your hand up, Councillor Tristan. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. May I ask, and I propose that we postpone this application until we can hold a site visit. I am disappointed that we have not had one yesterday on paper. This looks quite simple, but if you realise the scale of objection in Cansanan, with the application sites being next door to the school, and on paper it seems simple enough, but it's really isn't that straightforward. So I propose that we postpone this application and hold the site visits. I think that it's important that councillors see for themselves what the proposed development entails. Thank you, Councillor Tristan. Councillor Gwynol Ellis. Thank you, Chair. I agree with Councillor Tristan. There are several documents in the planning pack for this application, and the Green Infrastructure Statement notes on several occasions and makes several references to caravan park, including on the bottom of all the pages. Now, mainly, I want to refer to the proximity of this site to Ysgol Bro Aled, especially so the playground. It stuns me that there's any possibility of having a caravan park where it would be possible for people to view the children from the other side of the fence. The rights, the UN Charter of the Rights of the Child notes the children have a right to privacy. May I stop you there, Councillor Ellis? This application involves agriculture and not a caravan park. Oh, I understand that, of course. If we can stick to what's in the application. So if then I support Councillor Tristan's proposal that this application is deferred. Would anyone else like to speak? No, if not, sorry, Katie.
Could I just ask that before members do consider whether to defer the application, could we just take a look at the photographs that have been taken of the site on the presentation? The application is retrospective, so the photographs do show the hard standing in place. So I'd just be grateful if members could just take a look at those before they do consider deferring the application. Thank you.
Reit, ar ôl gweld y lluniau yna, cynghorydd
Right,
Trystan.
having seen those photographs, Councillor Tristan, do you still wish to propose deferring the application and holding a site visit? Yes, it's essential that we hold a site visit. And Councillor Gwennol? Do you still agree? Yes, no change there.
Oes 'na unrhyw gynnig arall?
Have I got any other proposals?
Nag oes, felly
No.
fedrwch chi ddangos yn y
Well,
modd.
can you show the proposal has been made to defer this application in order to hold site visit, which has been proposed by Councillor Tristan Lewis and seconded by Councillor Gwennol Ellis. Is everyone in agreement? Show hands, please.
In favour of a deferral. Anybody against? Rhywun yn erbyn? Rhywun am ymatal?
Anyone wishing to abstain? No? Right then.
Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you very much.
Mi fydda i yn gadael-
Well, I shall now vacate the chair for this next application, having disclosed an interest, then Councillor Ifor Lloyd shall step in and take my place. Thank you.
Yeah. I've got the English agenda in front of me, so I'll use that. Right. Case number 0/52045. Change of use of ground floor of Llys Gwydir from consented B1 office use to holiday apart hotel accommodation together with associated works. And we have a speaker, I do believe. Sianed. She's earning her keep today. Diolch, Sianed. Dach chi'n dath y sgript? Tair munud.
Gret, diolch yn fawr. Diolch am y cyfle eich anarch chi fel pwyllgor ar y cais.
Thank you for the opportunity to address you as a committee for this application to convert this building on the outskirts of Cloudon Road to provide holiday accommodation. As you can see from the addendum, further information has been submitted since the publication of the agenda, which satisfies officers on issues regarding flood risk, biodiversity improvements, and the viability of the proposal. The addendum confirms that the only concerns remaining by the officers is that they are not convinced that the application shows that the officers have poor prospects of being occupied. The addendum explains the manner in which the officers were marketed. David Hardy has confirmed that all the officers in Llys Gwydir have been marketed together since January 2023, which is over 2 years now. No serious interest was expressed by anybody. Nobody wanted to arrange any viewings, and no bids have been submitted for the properties either. Over the period of 2 years, it has become clear, therefore, that there is no interest or demand on the market for offices at this location. If anyone were to have been interested, they would have contacted the agents to discuss it, but nobody has done so. This application to convert the lower floor to holiday application has come forward since there is no need by the applicant, which is a local business with headquarters in Conwy, for all this office space. The applicants bought the warehouse next door to produce natural health products, but at the time the vendor wanted the warehouse and the offices to be sold together. So they bought the offices in Llysgwydir along with the warehouse, which they did not need at the time. With the change in working practices following COVID and an increase in home working or flexible working, there is no demand for these offices in Llysgwydir. While accepting that there is a general demand for offices, this is generalised along the A55 corridor. There is an opportunity for someone, there have been opportunities for people to rent these offices for 2 years and no interest at all has been shown. This proposal would allow the site to be brought back into economic use by providing tourist accommodation in near to Llanrwst and Eryri National Park. And it would be accessible from the A487. What's the point of having a new modern building lying empty as it has been for 2 years? I encourage you as a committee to support this application today. There's a strong rationale for doing so, and I hope that you will agree. Thank you, Sinead. And I've got Aaron Wynne, who's been registered to speak as the local member. Welcome, Aaron.
I'm going to speak in favour of this application today. As members know, this site is located on Parc Tŷ Gwyn in Llanrwst, which is protected for employment use. However, I can support this application as an exceptional case, as this site has been marketed for an extended period of time where no businesses or individuals have shown an interest in renting the workplace. Since acquiring the site, the applicant has invested a significant amount in bringing back to life what was fast becoming an eyesore in a strategic location in Llanrwst. Part of the office building is already utilised in addition to the warehouses. Approval would allow full utilisation of the building and provide the applicant with an income stream to support the continued sustainability of the wider business, a business which already employs 30 staff. In light of this, I believe that this application complies with planning policies relating to TOU 1, encouraging sustainable tourism, TOU 2, new sustainable tourism and recreational development, and EMP 6, reuse and adaptations of redundant rural buildings from the Conwy Local Development Plan. The applicant thinks they will employ between 6 and 8 people at this hotel. I believe this goes hand in hand with TAN 6, sustainable rural economy and diversification in the rural economy as a means of providing local job opportunities. I also believe that adapting the ground floor of this empty building for holiday purposes can reduce the pressure to use dwellings or homes in Llanrwst to provide holiday accommodation. Unfortunately, bed count in Llanrwst is limited, which has resulted in a hike in Airbnbs over recent years. I believe this application can go some way in easing that pressure. So I urge members to support this application.
Diolch, Aaron.
Thank you, Aaron. Officer Katie.
Thank you, members. There's quite a lengthy addendum, so I won't go through it in its entirety, so I'll just give you a summary. But we've received some additional and amended information in the form of a planning statement, marketing information, an FCA and a business plan. The planning statement provides some background to the applicant's acquisition of the site. It also comments that the lack of interest in the accommodation may be down to the fact that the site is located within the Conwy Valley as opposed to along the North Wales A55 corridor, and that also that generally home working arrangements have changed following COVID. It also makes reference to the commercial market analysis report, which forms part of a background paper to the replacement LDP. And that analysis states that there's an oversupply of certain types of office space within the county. The office accommodation is substandard for modern requirements, is in need of redevelopment or replacement. and that the majority of demand for office space tends to be along the A55 in areas which tend to be away from town centre locations where there is plenty of parking. The planning statement also states that the proposal would not compromise neighbouring employment sites that are to be retained, and makes specific reference to the office accommodation on the first and second floor that is currently and will continue to be occupied by the applicant, together with the light industrial units next door. Permission was also granted for the erection of a new hotel on land to the north of the site. However, this has not been progressed and the site remains vacant and undeveloped. The planning statement also includes a green infrastructure statement. In terms of the additional marketing information received from David Hardy estate agents, they confirm that all the office units were marketed under one record as opposed to individual records, and this is common practice within a state agency. And the reason why this was done was to avoid flooding the market with office space in Llanrwst. The amended FCA was submitted in response to comments received by NRW, which stated that amended information and additional information should be provided in relation to flood depths. And then lastly, the amended business plan includes a financial forecast for a period of 3 years, and this forecast now includes the operational costs of the proposed development and anticipates a profit for each of the 3 years. In response to the amended FCA, NRW stated that they do not have any objection, but they have commented that they cannot advise on whether the depths of flooding in the extreme 0.1% annual exceedance probability event plus climate change are considered tolerable in line with TAM 15, as there's no information on any likely depths within the FCA. In addition to that, they also cannot comment on matters relating to access and egress and leave that to the local plan authority to consider. Comments have been received from planning policy in relation to the planning statement and with specific reference to the commercial market analysis. They have stated that the comments within that analysis are in relation to older town centre buildings, which are typically converted Victorian houses, which are unsuitable for use as modern office spaces. The rural area is specifically mentioned within the analysis, with an acknowledgement that within these areas, employment stock tends to be older and poorer quality. However, that is not the case with this specific site. And they acknowledge that whilst the site is not on the A55 corridor, the oversupply of unsuitable office space is not considered relevant to this application site, as it is a modern building on an out-of-town site with plenty of parking. So to summarise, officers consider that the planning statement and the amended FCA and business plan overcome the concerns in relation to green infrastructure, biodiversity enhancements, flood risk and viability. However, officers remain of the view that the application fails to demonstrate that the offices have a poor prospect of being occupied and that the market is oversupplied. For these reasons, the proposal fails to comply with policy EMP4 of the LDP and advice in Planning Policy Wales and TAN 23, and for those reasons the recommendation remains to refuse planning permission. Thank you.
Aelodau. Sgyn rywun
Members,
cwestiwn, sylw?
does anyone have any questions, comments or proposals?
Star of 10. Who's cychwyn?
Who wants to start us off? No pressure.
Rhywun adre?
Anyone at home?
Cychwyn.
Nobody wants to step in first.
Na?
No.
It'll be a long day then. Cynghorydd Nia. Diolch. Nia.
Councillor Nia, thank you, Nia.
Diolch yn fawr iawn, Gadeirydd.
Thank you, Chair.
Ie, fel yr aelod
Yes, as the
arall yn y ward yma.
the local member for this ward, I fully appreciate that the application is diversion from the LDP policies for Conwy and specifically for Llanrwst. However, I believe that there is sufficient evidence here that the applicant has attempted to market the building for use as offices. So we've already heard that they've done so for over 2 years without any luck or any expression of interest at all. I would rather see the building being put to use rather than deteriorating due to underutilization. There is a shortage of hotels here in Llanrwst, and clearly it would create jobs in the town as well, and creates a bit more life and more visitors coming to the town. So I'd be interested to hear what other members have to say as well. Thank you. Does anyone have a formal, is that a formal proposal? Yeah, not yet, no. Anyone else? Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Tristan. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, we heard Councillor David Carr earlier with its Tyn application stating the dire need for work in rural communities, and here we have an example where there would be a possibility of work being created. As we've heard, the applicant has tried to market this building as offices, but clearly there is no demand whatsoever for that. And as mentioned, the Sustainable Rural Economy Tan 6, I believe if this application were to be approved, then Tan 6 certainly could be one of the reasons for that. TOU 1 and 2 would be another justification. That is, the applicant has tried, and so it is apparent to us that as business people they must look for other means, and this would bring work and tourism to Llanrwst. So I don't see, I know that the officers are recommending that we refuse this application, but I see nothing but benefits in approving this application for our rural communities and to Llanrwst in particular. So I shall make the proposal for those reasons. So Tan 6, that it reinforces the sustainable rural economy, and TOU 1 and 2 as well, and that we go against the officer's recommendation and approve this application for the benefit of our rural economy. Thank you. Would anyone like to, officers like to come back in? Oh. It's a bit earlier for trick or treat, isn't it? Thank you, Councillor Tristan. Some fools knocking the windows here. So I've got a proposal. Have I got a seconder for that proposal, please? Councillor Gwennol, would you like to speak as well, Gwennol? No, I'm merely happy to second Tristan's proposal. Would anyone else like to speak on this application? Yes, Councillor Carr.
Yeah, I think with both the local members being in favour of it, that is a big plus. And the other thing is, as the councillor Neer said, that we do need buildings in use, and maybe it could create jobs as well. So, you know, so I think all those things need to be taken account when we're voting this application. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So before I shut up shop, would anyone else like to speak?
Sorry, Paula Jones.
Sorry, Paula Jones, the head of the department, wants to ask you a question, Tristan, I think in regards to your second point.
Can you repeat which policies you were quoting? I missed it with all the banging that's going on here in the chamber.
Yeah, so Tan 6, Sustainable Rural Economy, and that it ticks the boxes of TOU 1 and 2. Perhaps we could condition, I think in the addendum, the flood evacuation plan, that these things will be put in place. I think, was it NRW mentioned that, so that would be a condition.
Ydy, mae hwnna yn yr adroddiad.
Is that in the report? We're just checking this TOU 1 and 2 if that's robust enough. Paula? Or Katie?
Sorry, Councillor, can I just double check the policies that you refer to? Because TOU 1 and TOU 2 refer to tourism development.
Indeed. And this is part of that as a hotel and does tourism.
We haven't assessed the application against TOU 1 and TOU 2. The reason being is that it was assessed against EMP 6 and EMP 4. Because of
But
the
these-
location of the site outside the settlement areas, policy considered that EMP 6 was the most appropriate policy.
Would these then be applicable? I think that the strongest one is TAN 6, a vital part of sustainable rural economy. And this building remaining empty would be a detriment to TAN 6, in my opinion.
Katie, is it all right if I invite the policy officer, Richard Clark, who seems to be online? Richard, do you mind inputting at this point, please?
No, not at all. So the EMP 6 is relevant here in terms of repurposing the rural buildings, and that's the policy used for converting typically agricultural old farm buildings for tourism accommodation, but in this case it's technically used for repurposing this employment building that's not currently in use. TOU2 is more linked in with wider sort of tourism development proposals. So I think EMP6 is the right one to assess this against in terms of the new use, and then there's the other employment policies to consider in terms of the loss of employment use.
I'm happy with that with EMP6 if the planning officer finds that acceptable.
Iawn, diolch yn fawr. Paula?
All right, thank you very much, Paula.
Yeah, that's fine to refer to EMP6. I would also just point out that the report does state that officers are of the view that the proposal does comply with EMP6, and the reason of our recommendation for refusal related to EMP4. So if you just want to refer to TAN 6 and EMP6, I think that should be sufficient.
Thank you. Yep.
Dyna'r argymelliad. Felly, mae gen i...
That's the recommendation, therefore.
Gwenol, ti'n hapus efo hynny?
Gwenol, are you happy with that?
Yndw, dwi yn hapus.
Yes, I am happy, thank you. There we are then, thank you. So I've got a proposal that's been seconded. Can we take that to the vote then, please? If you can all show your approval of Councillor Tristram's proposal. Thank you. 9, and anyone against? And does anyone wish to abstain? No, there we are, that's been carried.
Mynd yn erbyn y swyddogion
So to go contrary to the officer's recommendation, so that shall return to us for to be rubber-stamped next. And so if you could ask Councillor Austin to return, please.
Reit, cais nesa, ga i hefyd diolch i'r
Right,
is-gadeirydd.
may I thank the Vice Chair for taking over for that last item.
Prif y cais
And the
0
number of the next application is 0/52.
proposed extension and alterations, widen
Uh,
driveway and replacement garage roof, Plas Colwyn, Hys Helig, Diganwy. And the applicant, Mr. Andy Stanley, is registered to speak in favour of the application. If you'd like to come down, Mr. Stanley. You have 3 minutes. Okay, when you're ready.
Yeah, just thank you for letting me speak today. Just the first comment that I wanted to address was on the planning portal. There's a lot of people that have been just making it's an assumption I'm going to be a developer, and I'm not. I'm just a one-off person that managed to retire 2 years ago, and I purchased this derelict property called Plas Colwyn, which had been derelict for some time. The elderly lady that lived there previously was on her own. It was already in a state of disrepair. It's been empty for the last 2 years, and I've got no plan to become a developer. It's a one-off for me. I've never done this before. I'm just trying to sort of keep myself busy in retirement and stay from under the wife's feet, I would say. Just so you know, I've lived in the area then for 10 years, then in Diganwy. I'm not really an outsider, I don't think. And my wife's lived here since she was 16, which is 44 years, which again, she probably won't be happy with me saying. I used to work, I was an electrical contractor, so I'm used to working in construction and also understanding, considering construction in depth. Some recent projects that were in the area was it said at Minnesota School we're currently doing now, even though I'm out. I was part of the awards, and I also managed the new Conway council officers, so I do understand construction and consider construction. Yeah, it's just to say that anybody that was going to purchase Plas Colwyn and was always going to be in the same position I'm in, which is the property is it's derelict, it's unlivable, and the subfloors have gone below, then the damp is horrific, and some of the ceilings then within had started to fall down on their own. And there was a comment, I think, passed where I'd actually started work when I shouldn't have, but I did seek some clarification from Simon Richardson, the enforcement officer, because I had to take down in the concrete gutters and an outbuilding that was letting a lot of water still into the development. So I did get sign off on the small works that I've progressed so far. As I say, it's unlivable. It's unlivable currently. Just a brief application history then. I did purchase the property in 23 when I retired. I did put in there was an application then. The time of 90. Oh, is that 3 minutes already? Oh, right, okay. I'll skip past that then. The first two didn't get passed. It was a flat roof design. So we listened to the planning officers, and we resubmitted again in November. It's had favourable comments. Then, right, okay.
But we got the gist.
Did you? Right, okay. Hopefully, it's all local jobs as well. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. Sorry. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Iawn, drosodd i swyddog.
Over to the officer.
Diolch, Cadeirydd. There are a few items in the addendum. Again, I will summarise. There has been a reconsultation following the submission of amended plans, and there has been further representations and also a response from the applicant, which is summarised in the addendum. We've also received a response from the Highway Authority recommending conditions, and there is discussion in the addendum on those conditions. I'm happy to elaborate if there's any clarification required.
Okay, diolch yn fawr.
Thank you very much.
Committee. Who wants to start off? Everybody's gone shy all of a sudden. Cynghorydd Ifor Lloyd.
Hapus iawn I gynnig.
Very happy to propose as we go with the recommendation here. Does anyone second Councillor Ivor's proposal?
Oh, Tristan.
Tristan? Councillor Tristan? Thank you very much.
Anybody else want to speak? Rhywun arall eisiau dweud rhywbeth? Nag oes? Okay, ta, mae gynna I...
Okay, then I've got a proposal made by Councillor Ifor Lloyd, seconded by Councillor Tristan Lewis, that we go with a recommendation to approve.
Can you show in the usual way? Ysgolch? Unrhyw un yn erbyn?
Anyone against?
No. Ymatal, rhywun?
Abstaining? Anyone? No?
Dyna ni felly ma.
There we are then, that has been passed as recommended in the agenda.
Iawn, symud ymlaen.
Moving on then,
Cais nesa ydi
the next application is 0/52/077.
The project is to provide an active travel route between Glan Conwy and the RSPB entrance at A55 Junction 18. This will connect with the recently completed active travel scheme being carried out by Welsh Government at Junction 18, and also link to the bridge to the Cobb for onward travel to Conwy. This route includes new bridge crossing over Conwy Valley Railway Line from A470 Lay-by and ramp access from bridge to path between Railway and Afon Ganol. New bridge crossing over Afon Ganol, shared use path for walking, cycling and wheeling around perimeter of RSPB Reserve to Visitors Centre. Shared use path to A55 Junction 18, improved path to bridge at Conwy Cobb, land between Glan Conwy and the RSPB entrance at A55 Junction 18. And the officer dealing with this application is Jigs.
Hello. Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, there's a number of items to report to the members. This is council applications to create an active travel route connecting Grand Conway, Llandino Junction, and Conway. And Julia, can you bring up slide number 88, please? So the first matter to report is the application validation matter. The application site is involved multiple ownership. So you can see from the plan, so you got part of the land near to the A470 lay-by that's owned by the council. And then you got part of the land in red, which is Quan Estate, and then another part of the land registered with RSPB, Conwy Reserve, and then you got the yellow color in the top left corner. There's actually unregistered land. So in order to comply with the application validation requirements, the applicant has recently served additional notice on the other owners of the development site, including Wales and also RSPB Conwy Reserve. And the applicant also circulate a notice in the local newspapers as well, to satisfy the validation requirements. So that's the first item in the addendum. The second item is we have some updates to the information in the application. So the red line area of the application that has been adjusted slightly to include the footprint of the building platform which is where the railways crossing bridge and the access pump joins. And we also received a letter from the applicant as well, dated the 4th of February, just in response to our SPB consultation comments that cover a number of matters, including the boundary fence, bin storage area, workshops and storage containers, water pumping system, foul water drainage system, site lighting, construction management, and post-construction operation management and maintenance matter, and also the timing of the construction works as well. As we understand from the site visit yesterday as well, which we had assignment from our SPB Common Reserve to guide us as well throughout the site visit. We understand that some of the matters still have ongoing discussion between the applicants and our SPB Conway Reserve to work out some of the details to adjust those matters. So this matter, I would say, it very much still going. Then we have some consultees response updates for the members as well. We received the NLW updated consultation response yesterday. They now withdraw the earlier flood risk objection regarding the proposed development works at Afon Gannon, and they also withdraw the earlier concerns regarding the works at Avon Raiden Alpha that related to their accessibility to regular maintenance or emergency wear. So these matters has been addressed between NLW and the applicant. And they also add that several documents should be included in the conditions any planning permission, including the outline construction environmental management plan, the invasive non-native species management plan, ecological impact assessment, and also ecological precautionary working method statement as well. We also receive consultation comments from our own council's ecologist. She doesn't have any objection in principle, but has the following comments. Our ecologist, she has conducted stage 1 and stage 2 assessment required under the Habitats Regulations assessment, and she's concluded that provided the precautionary working method statements and the mitigation measures for protected and priority species to be implemented, the proposed development will not have significant adverse impacts on the mobile qualifying SPA or SAC species and the site integrity. And she also recommended a number of matters to be included in the final construction environmental management plans. Those documents is also referred to in the NLW response. This including the precautionary working method statement, invasive non-native species management plans, and there's also another document mentioned also in NLW consultation. This is ecological class of works as well. This is basically for the assessment and verification of the effectiveness of the control measures on completion of the construction works. Our ecologist also mentioned compensatory tree planting. I think this is also mentioned by our tree officers as well, because of the amount of trees that need to be removed because of the development. We will require quite substantial compensatory tree planting. It can be on site, but because of the amount of area involved, I think some of the compensatory measures will have to be carried out on site as well. At the moment, we don't have any details yet. I think the applicants still assessing and looking for different options. I think we're still waiting for details from the applicants. The other matters that our ecologist refer to is about diversity and enhancement plan, which should be controlled by condition and independent permission, and also any artificial site lighting as well. Our ecologists, we would prefer the option to have no artificial site lighting. However, she also considered that the proposed ecologically sensitive lighting designs in this application is acceptable and sufficient to minimize analysis spillage. And there's some officers update. The flood risk matter following the update NRW consultation response yesterday. This matter has now been resolved and addressed. The use of building materials and finish, that's actually referred to in the case also report as well. This matters, it can be controlled by conditions in any planning permission. We also consider following matters still outstanding. For example, a scheme for the compensatory tree planting, the submission of a more detailed construction environmental management plan, biodiversity enhancement schemes. And then the other matters is what we mentioned before, is there's still ongoing discussion between the applicants and the RSPB Conway Reserve on a number of matters such as pumping facilities, perimeter fencing, bin storage area, and other site lighting and soft landscape works details. So that might potentially result in submission of further documents or amended plans. And for this reason, officers also request delegated authority from planning committee so that we can continue to assess and resolve the outstanding matters. So lastly, we've also revised the recommendation to MIDE to approve conditional planning permission subject to resolution of the outstanding matters to the satisfaction of the development and building control manager. And then resolution B, in the event that outstanding matters are not resolved to the satisfaction of the development and building control manager within 3 months of the committee resolution or such longer period that may be agreed by the development and building control manager to refuse the planning permission. Resolution C is to authorize the development and building control manager to determine the application under delegation, including consideration of any further consultation response. That's the end of the addendum. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, James. Iawn, Cynghorydd
Right,
David Carr.
Councillor David Carr.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'd like to actually go with officers' recommendations and propose that we approve conditional planning permission. This is a fantastic project. It's been wanted in Glen Conway for, I think there was previous proposals years ago, and I think the funding has now been made available and it's going ahead. It's fantastic, and it'll be a bridge from Lanquine over to the bird reserve. I think it'll be well used, not only just by the local people, but also by visitors. So I think this is very much good news, and I'm very much supportive of it. Thank you.
Diolch yn fawr, Cynghorydd.
Thank you very much, Councillor David.
That we go with the recommendation. Thank you. Oes na eilydd?
Have I got a seconder?
Cynghorydd Ifor Lloyd.
Councillor Ifor Lloyd.
Cynghorydd Alan Hunter.
And Councillor Alan Hunter, you've got your hand up.
Hello.
Just a second, Chair.
Sorry.
It's okay, Ivor's jumped in.
Yeah, go on, Ifor.
Sorry, yeah,
Sorry.
I was going to second, but also I would like to make reference to the planting guide that we have in Appendix 4 of, let's get this right, on a supplementary planning guidance, yeah? LDP 40, just so that we work off that list of indigenous plants, not nothing fancy, just what we've got in our own list, yeah? Please, if that's all right, Councillor Kerr.
Are you happy with that?
Yeah, so
Councillor David?
the matrix is for the supplementary plant, and also if we can look at a ratio for 3 for 1. So for every one we take out, we put 3 in. Yeah. Awesome, bossy, which is normal practice.
That's set out in the planning committee report that there's, I think it works out something like 69 trees that need to be provided. And we'll also be working, once that scheme comes in, we'll also be consulting with our tree officer and ecologist as well to make sure they get the right species on there. Yeah.
Lovely. Alan, sorry, do you want to come back in?
No, it's okay, Chair. I was just going to second it, but I think Ivor's done that in his summing up, so no problem.
Okay,
Thank you.
lovely. Diolch yn fawr. Anybody else want to speak? No? Okay, then. I've got a proposer from Cynghorydd David Carr, seconded by Cynghorydd Ifor Lloyd, that we go with recommendation. Can you show in the usual way? Anybody against? I don't think so. Any abstentions? No, there we are. That is carried unanimous. And we will go with recommendation to allow. Diolch yn fawr. Thank you. Right, symud ymlaen. Moving on. Y cais nesa
The
fydd
next application shall be 0/521555.
alterations to building and installation of a bike store at Unit 1, Tremorfa Enterprise Park, Parc Caer Sion, Conwy. And the officer is James, is it?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. There's just a couple of items to report to the members in the addendum. First of all, we received amended plans from the applicants on the 6th of February. The amendment increased the amount of solar panels proposed on the roof of the building. Because of that, we've carried out reconsultation, and then the reconsultation period will expire on the 24th of February 2025. We've considered the amendments and in terms of the visual amenity, etc., and it doesn't alter the officer. It doesn't change the officer's assessment and conclusions in the case officer report, and because of that, we revise the recommendation to either to grant conditional planning permission, and then to authorize development and building control manager to consider any and assess any additional constitutive response or public representation that may be received during the reconsultation period on the amendment, and also to authorize the development and building control manager to determine the application under delegation. Thank you, Chair.
Diolch, James. Thank you.
Thank you, James.
Iawn, rhywun isio?
Would anyone like to make a proposal?
Cynghorydd Stephen Price.
Councillor Stephen Price.
I'd like to propose that we go with the officer's recommendation.
Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you very
Got a
much.
second? Cynghorydd Joe Nuttall. Pawb, rhywun arall isio siarad?
Would anyone else like to speak? No.
Can you show in the usual manner? Dyna ni. And that
There we
goes
are.
with recommendation. Diolch yn fawr. Dyma ni ar yr un ola.
And now we come to the final
Give Councillor
application.
Joe
I'll
chance to leave. Iawn, rhif y cais, 0/5
so it's 0/52216.
of a single-story link extension between existing buildings extension to existing macaque enclosure and netted cover to outdoor animal area, Welsh Mountain Zoo, Old Highway, Colwyn Bay. This is a Kerry.
There's only a couple of minor points. There's no objection from the town council, and we haven't had any comments from the ecologist, but we consider that the green infrastructure statement proposed landscaping and ecological enhancements fulfill policy requirements. The recommendation has been amended to say minded to grant conditional planning permission.
Diolch yn fawr. Have
Thank
I
you very
got
much.
somebody- Thank you. Cynghorydd Stephen Price.
I'd like to propose that we go with officer's recommendations. Thank you.
Diolch yn fawr. Have I got a seconder? Councillor David Carr, diolch yn fawr. I've got a proposal that we go with recommendations by Cynghorydd Stephen Price, seconded by Councillor David Carr. Can you show in the usual manner, please? Anybody against? I don't think so. We'll have no monkey business in here. Any abstentions? No. Dyna ni, that is carried,
we are.
and that is the final application. Gai diolch yn fawr iawn i chi.
Yeah,
gyd
thank
am
you
eich rhan.
all for
Thank you all for your
participating.
participation today. Can I especially thank the officers, Jane, Rachel, Paula, James, Kerry, and Julia, and Berwyn in the cut over there. And also can I thank Katie and Ian Gibbons who have left us. Well, they've left the building, they haven't actually left us. And there we are. Diolch yn fawr chi gyd.
Thank you.